Welcome back to Pick Up the Pen, the podcast where we dive into unfiltered conversations about mindset, health, and rewriting your story. Today, I'm joined by Sabrin Mohamedsalih, a nurse, creator, and advocate who has transformed her life by losing 40 kilos while living with PCOS. But more than a physical change, her story is about mindset, self-worth, and breaking through excuses. Welcome, Sabrin.
Thank you for having me.
So we have a little tradition, and before we jump into the podcast, every guest answers a question that the previous guest left. And the question is, what is your contribution to change the world?
That is one good question, I have to say. I think I have a contribution to do better in this world, as in I'm a registered nurse, and being able to speak to the patients in a more prophylactic manner. For example, any diabetics or obese patients. I think that is the part of doing better or just doing good in this world. Otherwise, like I do good every single day, but it's not a change, I'd say. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Beautiful. Thank you. So then I would say let's dive into your journey, and I'm pretty curious to see also the lessons behind it. The first topic I would like to start with is the victim mindset while overweight. And my first question for you is, when you were at your heaviest, what did victim mindset sound like inside your head?
So at the beginning, when I was heavy set, I was aware that I was always the bigger one, but I was having what people call fat blindness. I wasn't that much aware of it. And then I went to the doctors and I was told that I'm obese and I'm pre-diabetic and that I have a condition called PCOS, the Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And well, since I got a diagnosis, I have something to blame, and it was that easy. People have been asking me how was the doctor's appointment? I was just like, yeah, guys, I have a diagnosis, I have an insulin resistance. That's just how it is. And after like a month, it just set in. I just had a turning moment where I was just like, what the hell am I doing? I'm literally being told that I'm pre-diabetic, and it doesn't matter like what the cause is. It matters what happens from the moment I was told that I have the diagnosis, what happens. And that meant taking accountability and knowing that I have to do better choices, even if it means having to drastically change my life. And that's what I ended up doing. Just stop thinking like I'm a victim and more thinking that I'm a winner, that I'm lucky enough to be diagnosed, and start doing the change.
Okay. And what were the excuses you found yourself repeating most often?
The excuses were like, oh, I'm not gonna go work out because like I obviously already did my 10K steps at the hospital. I work bedside, so I'm running around all day, and I disregarded the fact that lower muscle percentage meant that my insulin resistance is going to keep on being there, and I didn't care. I'm moving around like any other person would, so why should I have to do more about it? That was the biggest thing.
And if chains were excuses, which was the heaviest for you to break?
The fact that I'm unhappy and I have to do something about it, that felt like an actual chain around my neck. I'm responsible for it, and just the feeling of knowing I could do something about it. Like it's no task or nothing else there was about it. It was just knowing it's me, and that hurt.
So that means that the pain got so big at one point that you was told yourself, okay, this cannot be it. I have to change. And did you try a few times to lose weight, and how did that go for you?
So I got diagnosed at 21, which was pretty early already. When I was younger, I was just eating like everybody else. So that was in my head, that was the attempt of losing weight, because I was like, there's no way that I'm eating like my very like visibly skinny sister. We're in the same household. We literally eat the same. It's not like we eat the same food and I eat a bigger portion. That wasn't the case. I wasn't as active as other people probably, but yeah, I'd say those were the attempts. But like really trying to lose weight, no. After knowing why I couldn't lose weight, I actually started the actual attempt and was very successful, which showed me if I wanted to early on, I would have done it. It just needs a trigger point.
Okay. Yeah, what I see also with clients of mine when it comes to online coaching is a lot of people, when they start this journey, there's a lot of self-sabotage. So they're sabotaging themselves a lot, and it's usually like I like to bless you. I like to compare this with a plane. When you, let's say, fly from Zurich to Berlin, there are coordinations, and the coordination says, okay, this is the line we need to follow. And if there are turbulences, it can get off track. But the system is used to the coordination, so it will pull back to the same line. And that's similar with being sabotaged. When you read something, for example, you start eating healthier, and then it's like, oh, but that's not really you. So it brings you right back to the navigation you're set on. So that's self-sabotaging. And you'll still end up at that destination, but the quality will drastically drop back because you're not used to this. Actually, eating healthier is good. And I think this is where a lot of people feel stuck because it feels uncomfortable, unfamiliar. And if things are unfamiliar, it also triggers the brain. This is not safe. Maybe we should not be doing this. And I think this is also a huge struggle. But I think this is a nice way to step into the next topic, which is PCOS. Hard but not impossible. And I mean, you showed this with dropping 40 kilos. And my question is, how did PCOS show up in your daily life?
So first of all, I wanted to say that was incredibly explained with the airplane analogy, because I just thought that was, if you would have told me that when I was younger, I would have, like, that would have blown my brain. But back to the current question. So it showed with like hormonal problem. So PCOS usually has symptoms like irregular periods, which I had. My periods were, I sometimes had them for like 3 weeks, and sometimes they weren't there for 2 months, which is just incredibly worrying as a young woman. And then I had a symptom which isn't usual, but I had massive bleeding and massive pains. Sometimes there are things that doctors can't explain. For example, the connection to me losing all the weight and also my hormones balancing now, and me having all these other symptoms, because I ended up in the emergency room with like heavy bleeding, and I lost a good amount of blood because a cyst popped, and like actual traumatic stuff that impacted my day-to-day life. I'm on my feet. I cannot be in that much pain and work with people. That was the biggest thing for me, 100%.
That's pretty hard, and I believe those kind of life experiences, they shape us.
Absolutely.
Especially when and this is sometimes also hard or disheartening for me because I see a lot of people first do the change when things get very serious. And I always say it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like if you neglect your physical health and you see people and their bodies that fail them to do a regular day-to-day life, that is, and they lose the control of that. That is even worse because you feel very vulnerable, weak, and I think that's a very hard moment, you know? So, yeah, so I really appreciate you for sharing this, and I know this is probably also may not be as easy, but you're here today, so that's also very nice. Now, my next question is, when did you use PCOS as an excuse and you realized this?
It was any time like anybody made a remark about my weight, which happened quite often. And I was just like, yeah, guys, I have PCOS, I have insulin resistance. There's nothing that I can do about it. And also like the heavy pains and everything. People are like, oh, everyone has periods. I was like, I do have PCOS. The pains are stronger. That all was true, and I still stand by that. But the point of saying, yeah, I can't do anything about it. It's so frustrating to think back how easy life is when you just blame anybody and anything else but yourself.
Yeah, accountability, that's something a lot of people don't like. I also realize this. Accountability sometimes is hard, but the truth is something that needs to be spoken more often. And I believe, especially when it comes around, because obviously you will be received in a different light, especially when you lose weight. People will notice. And yeah, I will keep this because it's also a topic we're going to dive into. I don't want to go too deep into it. Now, what helped you shift from frustration to action? Because I mean, you probably was pretty frustrated, and you was probably telling yourself, "Why do I have this?
Yeah.
Everybody else around me is healthy. Why? Why?" So, what helped you moving from frustration to action?
I'd say there was a moment where I was just sitting down thinking, this is ridiculous. I can do something about this. Like, why am I crying? I felt so dumb. It's like the most easy solution. It doesn't matter how hard it is, it doesn't matter what it takes. I need to do something about it. And I couldn't believe that I wasn't doing something about it. It was going hand in hand with the fact that I was like terribly shy. Like I had problems eating at restaurants. I had very severe social anxiety in connection with that. And then I was like, okay, let me just delete social media. Let me delete everything that fills up my free time, the relentless scrolling and everything, and pick up a book that could help me improve in the time. And the other time that is left of the free time, I'm going to start working out. After a year, I dropped the 40 kilos, the 88 pounds. So it shows that sometimes you have to be the most real person to yourself. And like I would say, if someone does well in school, it shows that you have discipline. So you're lying to yourself saying, oh, I'm not disciplined enough or this and that. No, you just decide in which place in your life you're disciplined. And I decided it has to be every aspect in life that I need to care about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's also a very interesting topic because the majority of people are disciplined. The thing that they're lacking is structure, and the same goes with weight loss. Most people know how to eat. They know that they need to train, do more steps, drink more water, go earlier to bed. But if you don't have systems in place that support your life, especially, for example, your working shift, you need a system that supports your shift work. If you don't do that, then it's obviously difficult. And I believe you also was working during that time where you were struggling and losing weight. So you also had your personal life. You had to manage this somehow. And that's where you realize, okay, structure is essential to my life because it also determines the quality of my life and the things that I do and the things that I invest. Because many times I say, look at your screen time, and then you will see very fast that you actually do have more time than you believe. And I've worked with single parents, with parents, both still being together. I work with people that was working shifts, doctors, lawyers, you name it. I work with so many people already in my coaching, and we always manage to find ways. Even if they have one child, two children, even I think the biggest was 4 children that I've worked with, and it's manageable. Now, obviously, when you put the structures in place, it will take time until everything adapts. So we need to be gentle with ourselves and give ourselves grace and time so this thing gets moving and we catch up with the momentum. But yeah, it's very interesting to hear. And what is a question you would give women with PCOS? What is one message you would like to give them or you would like them to hear from you today?
I'd say you don't want to be hurting for that long. Get help, do something about it.
Now, what the next topic will be treatments before and after weight loss. I kind of gave a little hints in it before. And my first question about this is, can you share one moment you'll never forget about how people treated you when you were heavier?
Yeah. So as a big person, you always wish for this moment when people are going to be like, oh my God, you lost so much weight, you look good, this and that. That I had to keep that in mind. And then when I was bigger, my best friend has a annually party that's pretty big that she invites a lot of people. And there are people that I was interested in that I saw there. And each time we saw each other, it was just like no conversation, just me existing next to them. I didn't think much of it. It hurt, but I didn't want to get too much into it. But the hurting part was the year that I lost the weight. I saw everyone again at that party. I was offered drinks. I was offered seats. People reintroduced themselves to me, and I've been seeing the same people for 5 years. That's like something that burned deep inside me, hurt badly. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually goes back to biology, and it's not actually society being cruel. It's people also seeing, especially when you are overweight, people see you as less trustworthy. They see you as less disciplined. They, for example, in man, if you're overweight, you are received less protective. You're viewed as weak, and people really don't take you that serious. Especially also in the dating market, it your jawline, your face features, jawline start to come back. Looking leaner, obviously you will be more attractive. You will look more masculine. For women, you will have more female features, like the curves, face, all those things. Your hair is gonna get better. All these kind of things come with it if you do it obviously in a healthy approach. It also is for fertility, all these kind of things. But this goes way back to our little reptile brain that just sees something and says good, not good. And that's how simple we sometimes are. And a lot of people don't understand it. They believe, oh, why are people so mean? No, that's actually biology that is working with us. That's been for the past decades and hundreds of years in us, So that's not something people should ignore, or just basic human psychology that plays into this, So that's most of the times when you go somewhere, that is just the reason. It's the same, how you feel about yourself, confidence, lack of confidence. That does a lot to you as a person. And if the confidence is low, your self-belief and yourself is low. And every time you skip or you break a promise to yourself, it always takes a strike on your confidence, and it goes down and down and down. And at one point, also people will not take you serious. They will say, oh, you could try to do this again. Let's see how long. And then people are like, why would they say that? I really tried to change something. Yes, because you have not followed through on your own words. So how should people trust you if you don't do it yourself? If you can't trust yourself, why should people trust you? And that's one big thing I always like to give also with my clients. I will tell them there will be some backlash when you start to try, because you've probably tried a few times and it didn't work. But you need to be consistent. You need to honor your words and stick to it. And it changes. And every single transformation that happened was people got more respect. People were seen. They were noticeable, not invisible. So yeah, that's very interesting. And what was the most surprising thing after losing 40?
That a certain kind of privilege just exists. Like I thought it was wild how much nicer people were. It's not only nicer, like just a kind of privileged, kind, going overboard to just, I don't know, give you something, or just a different kind of attention, but not even dating wise, just in everyday life. The looks you get, how much nicer people are. And I want to go back to what you said. It took me a while to just stop blaming society, this and that, about the fact that people are just nicer to you. Like you said, if we are just talking about the basic facts, health, obesity and health, that doesn't go together. It's just not true. It doesn't matter how long we try to spin it. But I still think basic manners should be to everyone. And that's the problem for society. That's what I experienced. I wasn't getting basic manners. That's what I wanted to add from before. But yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Now there's also another metaphor. When you go in a field, just imagine you're going on a field and you're looking at flowers. Which flower would you pick? You're gonna pick the nicest one, and that's the reason for it. Now, is that the right way? Obviously, no. It's not nice. It's not nice knowing that, but that's how we function as humans.
Yes.
And it's a harsh reality, especially if you are in that situation of being overweight, obese. You don't know where to start. You feel lost. You feel unhappy. You have low confidence. You don't like what you see in the mirror or after leaving the shower. Those things, you sit with yourself alone. And I always say 50% of your energy, or not even more. Yes, energy, and then also your emotions will be influenced. 50% of your energy comes from the communication you have within yourself. But 95% of your emotional well-being comes also from the communication you have within yourself. So that is a huge number that people underestimate a lot. So yeah, I think that is a very, very important topic. And it's good that we're speaking today, and also that you're speaking about it. That's also very brave. I also want to give a shout out to this for you speaking, because I know that it takes a long way, and it takes a lot of adversity you have to face before getting to where you are today. I mean, seeing your results today, it looks great. You're looking great. Amazing job so far. And, I also hope you tell yourself that you're proud of yourself.
I am.
That's very good. That's very good. Okay, now moving on. Did people's reaction ever make you question your own worth?
Like from men, I do have to say yes. It thankfully never spiraled, but I did get a comment from someone who said you'd be so much prettier if you lost weight. And I don't know, I have split opinions now thinking about it. because
What is
I
your opinion?
I now agree, obviously, that happened, and I wouldn't go back to the old me. I'm not
Mm,
going to lie and say it's only about health. If it wasn't about health, I would have stayed over 100 kilos at like 172 centimeters. No,
mm,
100% not. But that really did something to my self-esteem. It did. But
mm.
it didn't do enough for me to want to lose weight. So I don't know if society has to be meaner or the doctors have to be more honest. So it's crazy.
Yeah, most of the time it's also a lack of self-love that comes with it.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
lack of self-love is a huge topic when it comes to the change because if you don't love yourself, you will not prioritize yourself, set boundaries, take care of your health. And I see this in a lot of relationships that goes hand in hand with achieving a goal in itself. Sometimes you need to say, okay, this is my boundary and I have to really step up and follow through. And yeah, I think a lot of people, when they start actually choosing themselves, because true love is only found within yourself, then change happens. And I think that also happened with you. You started to love yourself. You started to say, hey, you know what? I may be here right now, but I will not be stuck for here forever because I am the author of my life and I can change that. Very, very powerful in itself.
It is.
Now, how do you keep your value rooted deeper than just appearance? Because I think that's also a huge topic where a lot of people they start to get fit and then their appearance becomes their personality. The same with people that get super successful, their success becomes their whole personality rather than
Mhm.
being I'm still an individual and that's my success, you know. So how did you find that line for you?
I naturally get humbled because of the loose skin itself, but other than that, I think health was the trigger point of why I lost weight. So that will always be rooted in me that I'm not just doing this for the aesthetics. I want to have children. I need to be healthy to be able to have
Mhm.
children, and also postpartum to be able to lose the weight and be happy and healthy again. I think health, it's like working in a hospital, you just value your health so much more, and that's how I never get stuck on the visual, which to be honest, I don't think it's always bad that I go after the visual. That's motivation. Whenever I think, oh, I was a bit leaner at that time, I'm like, I achieved that before, I'll achieve it again, and I'll get back into the gym and push me some more.
Mm. Yeah, obviously. I mean, a lot of people would lie if it would be not for the aesthetics, just like we said with the flowers on the fields, or how our body reacts. Obviously, there's a lot more behind it, and aesthetics are nice, but again, they should never be the main reason why you're doing it in the first place. Obviously, if you're doing bodybuilding or you're competing, that's probably something different, but then you still need to be able to separate it from your value as a person. I think that's very important and not attach it to this and then believe I'm only my body, I'm only my success, I'm only my money, my cars, or whatever it may be. And you also mentioned a very important part, having your own family, having kids. That's obviously very important because children sense every single signal. You cannot hide anything from them. And I know this because I don't have children yet, but I heard it from friends and they said, listen, you need to work on your past traumas. You need to work on your self-worth, love. Those things children will sense in a split second. You cannot hide anything from them. That's why I
Yeah.
find it very important that we work on ourselves. That's why it's important to like what we see in the mirror because, again, I believe there is a connection. Obviously, when the mother is pregnant, the child will also receive this kind of energy. Of course, this is a whole different topic, but I believe that also plays into it and, yeah, how our children perceive us and how their energy or how the energy is created around them.
I believe so as well, 100%.
Nice. Now, we are actually pretty much at the end. It was a short and quick one, but it's very nice. And at the end, if someone listening feels stuck right now, what's the first step they should take to rewrite their story?
Say, write down the 3 biggest problems in your life right now, and then, since we are blessed with ChatGPT in this year of our life, put these 3 problems in and ask for books that are recommended for these problems, and then start reading them. If you still don't know what to do afterwards, continue the same process. And I just want to add, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F was the book
Mm,
that got me out of everything that has happened. That was my starting point. So that's what I suggest for anybody else.
Okay, thank you. That's nice. I think that's a good one. And obviously, the tradition goes on. Now, every guest leaves one question for the next. So, Sabrin, what is your question for the next guest?
If you could jump to your successful life right now without going through all the hardships in between, would you do it?
Okay, I think that's an interesting one for the next guest. All right, then I would say we can wrap it up. And first off, I wanted to thank you, Sabrin, for sharing your journey, your story with us. And also for the people listening, if you resonated with this, what was shared, you can always tune in on YouTube. You can find the video. Obviously, we will also create some social media snippets. And I'm happy you tuned in to pick up the pen. And I'm happy to see you next time.
Thank you so much for letting me write with the pen. And I enjoyed the podcast so much. Hope you have a great time.
Thank you for being there.